Hey guys, we are on Unit 10, Unit 4, Lecture 10, the final section of this unit, which brings us to the test before our holiday break. So let's talk about post-war politics and the economy. What happened to politics and the economy after World War I? Well, in Britain, you had the conservatives versus the socialists. But in Britain, they weren't actually called the socialists, they're the Labour Party. And this Labour Party, they were more like the Russian Mensheviks. These were not looking for some grand socialist revolution. These were the kinds that were just talking about little by little by little, let's make life a little better for people so everyone can have health care, everyone can eat. Let's make things a little bit better, a little at a time. And the British people were divided about half and half as to who supported which side, but the conservatives throughout the 1920s, the conservatives always won by just a little bit, just a tiny little bit. The conservatives always got control of the government, but a whole lot of people leaned towards Labour also. Now, do you guys remember from forever ago, I mentioned Ireland, and there was the Irish question. What was the Irish question? Oh yeah, the Irish question was when British politicians talked about, what are we going to do about Ireland? Well, finally, this has come to a point of where they have to decide what to do about Ireland because the Irish people want independence. In 1922, Britain took Ireland. I'm going to draw a little picture. We have to pretend this is the island of Ireland, the island of Ireland. And they split it, and they told this part down here they were free and independent. But this part up here was still part of the UK, the United Kingdom. Remember the United Kingdom, that's England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. They changed the name too. They said this part down here, this is Ireland, and this place up here, this is Northern Ireland. They're different. If you're driving on the road from Ireland to Northern Ireland, you have to show your passport. These are different countries, like South Korea and North Korea. They're different. Well, they're not that different like South Korea and North Korea, but just because they have the same name doesn't mean they're the same country. They're different countries. I'm going to show you on a map. So here's the United Kingdom. Wales is down here, or actually, Wales and England and Scotland, and now Northern Ireland. This is Northern Ireland, and down here is Ireland. Most people in Ireland are Catholic. Most people in Northern Ireland are Protestant. Most people in the United Kingdom are Protestant. And their religion really had a lot to do with it, really all there was to do with it. The United Kingdom kept the Protestant part, and they gave the Catholic part the boot. Well, a bunch of people in the Catholic part of Ireland weren't happy with that. They want the whole island. They say all of this is Ireland. We should be one united nation. And people fought over it. Not like an actual war, but there was a whole bunch of terrorism. And a group called the IRA, which is the Irish Republican Army. This isn't Republican like the political party in the United States. This is like Republic, people of the Republic, the people of the Army of the Republic of Ireland. But they were a terrorist group. They still exist. They still are. And they had all kinds of protests and fought to get joined together forever. Like when I was a kid, when I was maybe like 13 years old and younger, there were bombs going off in Northern Ireland all the time. It was on the news. Like you turned on the news and it was like the IRA bombs such and such place in Northern Ireland because they were trying to get rid of Britain and have the whole island free. Didn't work. They're still separate. Okay, and so we've covered Britain and Ireland. Now we're moving on to France. And in France, we also had struggles between the conservatives and the communists. Same kind of struggles that were going on in Britain. In the US, 1919 to 1920, I had this thing called the Red, I'm going to write it in red because it's so much fun, the Red Scare. Dun, dun, dun. The Red Scare. Due to propaganda, everyone in the United States was terrified of socialists. They were terrified of communism. The commies out to get you. Look behind your back. The commies coming for you. They're going to get us. The communists are coming. Everybody was afraid. Everybody thought everybody else was a communist, especially immigrants. If you were an immigrant to the United States, you were highly suspicious and people thought you were a commie. And a whole bunch of them were sent back. Any kind of immigrant that had passionate, kind of radical socialist communist ideas, they were kicked out of the United States. And during this time, the United States made lots and lots of laws limiting immigration. Limiting immigration. You know, the United States is a nation of immigrants. Anyone that looks like me, or anyone that looks like any of you that lives in the United States, it's because their family were immigrants. It's not what the Native Americans look like. But suddenly, because of the Red Scare, America started shutting their door to immigrants. And let's go back to France. Let me erase all that. Back to France. France wanted to push the Treaty of Versailles hard. They really, really wanted Germany to have to obey everything they had agreed to. They were serious. Germany has got to limit their army. Germany has got to pay reparations for everything. But Britain, almost immediately, as soon as the Treaty of Versailles was signed, Britain kind of backed off and wasn't so sure that they should really make Germany do all of that stuff. And it's because they saw if Germany gets really, really weak, then France and the Soviet Union will get really strong. And if France and the Soviet Union get really strong, what might happen to Britain? Who knows? But they might, I don't know, declare war on Britain. They might push Britain out of the economy. They don't know. But Britain starts getting really worried about, if we make Germany really, really weak, then France and the Soviet Union are going to get strong. It could be bad for us. And so now Britain and France they're still friends. They're just they're bickering over, I don't know if we should do this. We should do this. I don't know. That's kind of what they're like. Then in 1928, the US, Britain, France, and Japan, they all sign this pact. It's a promise. They all sign then I said practice. A pact, which is a promise to never go to war again. Isn't that sweet? It sounds really sweet, doesn't it? We're going to sign this agreement that we're never going to go to war again. And that agreement was called the Kellogg-Briand Pact. And they made a sweet promise to never go to war again. Well, it wasn't too long after that. So that was 1928. In 1931, what did Japan do? We just learned about it. Japan did something in 1931. Oh yeah, right. They went to war with China. Pact didn't last very long, did it? All right. Now, and then 1931, Japan went to war in China. What was it in 1939 that happened that pulled Japan out of that war? Oh yeah, right, World War II. So, this pact sounded really sweet, and I'm sure they really meant it. I'm sure they really, really meant it at the time. I'm sure everyone in this class right here has promised your parents that you would never do something again. And you really meant it when you promised them. But you did it again, didn't you? Yep. Because I told you, I keep saying over and over again, countries are just like individual people. So France and Britain are really, really struggling to recover economically. And by the way, so are Russia and Germany. But Europe, they're destroyed. They were completely destroyed. But the US, the United States, didn't actually join the war until pretty late in. Not very many people died, and nothing on the US continent was destroyed. The US continent, the American continent was destroyed. Everything's cool, their factories are still running, businesses are still going. And so the United States was financially thriving from the war. So here you've got, I'm going to say this is Europe, and this is Japan, and this is the US. Well, all the fighting was here, and all of this was completely destroyed. Well, if this is completely destroyed, the world still needs stuff, because we've decided that we like stuff and we need more stuff. Now, Japan and the US are making everything. But by the 1930s, Japan is kind of out, because late 1920s, Japan is kind of out because they've already got their eyes set on China. So the US is #1 for produce, for production, for factories making anything. The US is #1. And the US is getting money, 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 money. The US is rich, rich, rich. And the US is helping to fund Europe rebuilding. They're paying, someone in France borrows money from someone in the US to rebuild their factory. And the US is rich, 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 rich. And when people get rich, they get really excited and they spend more money. The more money you have, the more money you spend. And it just works that way. The more you have, the more you spend. The more you have, the more you spend. Then you have more, then you spend more, then you have more, then you spend more, then you have more, then you spend more. And that was going on in the US until the Depression. Now, I want to explain to you how the Depression started. But to understand that, you have to understand how banks work. So here's the bank. Sumin gives the bank $5. And Yiqiao gives the bank $5. And Inwu gives the bank $5. And now Yanwu asks the bank, hey bank, can I borrow $12? And the bank says, yeah, sure, you can borrow $12. And the bank takes 5 of Inwu's dollars and 5 of Sumin's dollars. And who did I say this was? Yiqiao? And 2 of Yiqiao's dollars and gives them to Yanwu. But it's all on the faith that Sumin isn't going to come asking for her $5. So hold on. Oh no, I want to write that in red so we can keep it all together. Okay. So $15 were put in the bank. 12 of those dollars were put out of the bank. Now, sorry, I lost you guys for a minute. The internet went out. Let me go back to sharing the screen. Okay, I'm gonna start over just a second because I don't know how much you heard. So $15 were deposited in the bank. $12 were put out of the bank. Now, the bank itself only has $3. Well, what happens if In Wu comes and says, okay, I'd like my $5 back? What does the bank say? Sorry, we lent your money to someone else. We don't have it. That is exactly what happened, what caused the Great Depression. Exactly. So people, lots and lots and lots of people were putting money in the bank. Lots and lots and lots of other people were borrowing money from the bank. And what the bank hopes is that Yan Wu will pay this money back before In Wu, Sumin, and Ichiao want to take their money out. But during the Great Depression, there were all kinds of just little things that happen in society that made people worried. And there was this mad rush on the banks, and everyone that had given their money to the bank, they all went to the bank and they all wanted their money back. Everybody was like, give me all my money now. But the banks didn't have it. The banks gave the money back to who they could, but when they ran out of money, that was it. There was just no more money. What even if, let's say Ichiao didn't give $5. Let's say Ichiao gave $500 million. $500 million to the bank. But the bank had lent out $500 million to George and Alan and Kuliza. And so when Ichiao came to the bank and said, hey, I want my $500 million back, the bank went, sorry. And Ichiao instantly, just like that, went from being a multi-millionaire to having nothing, just like that. And it happened all across the United States of America. There was a panic. Everybody panicked, and everybody rushed to the bank to get their money out. And then all the money was gone. And that was it. And there were just poor, broke people all over the United States. Millionaires, multi-millionaires turned poor in one split second. Then this depression in the United States spread all around the world. All around the world, this depression spread because businesses from all around the world were borrowing money from these banks, or George borrowed money from the bank and someone in Spain borrowed money from George. Well, when George goes back to borrow more money, there is no more money. And if George can't give the person in Spain more money, then this person in Spain has no more money. And it just spread like that all around the world. And there were just waves of poverty and depression spreading all around the world because of this. The president at this time, the president's name was Herbert Hoover. The president of the United States was Herbert Hoover. And Herbert Hoover refused to do anything about it. He said it is not the government's job to interfere with private business. And he just refused to do anything about it. But then he was kicked out. I mean, he wasn't kicked out of office, just elections came up and he was not elected. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt, also known as FDR, was elected. He's the new president of the United States of America, and he wants to help the people. And he comes up with a program called the New Deal. And with the New Deal, let's start a new page. With the New Deal, he comes up, it's this idea to help the people. The New Deal has federal, that's nation, the United States government, federal jobs programs, where the government of the United States of America wants to build a new road. And so they just go out into these small towns, and the actual government of the United States of America hires men to build roads and dams for power, to use water to power cities. The federal government built dams, and they hired just people off the streets to come and work for them, people that didn't have jobs. The New Deal made food stamps for the first time. A food stamp is someone, normally we buy food with money, right? Well, what if someone doesn't have any money? Like they don't have any money at all. Well, the government was issuing pieces of paper to these people and saying, this piece of paper represents, I don't know, $5. And they could go to the store and they could, with that piece of paper, they could buy $5 worth of food. And the federal government paid that $5. They also started Social Security. The Social Security program is, before this, if someone worked a job their whole life, and then when they were really, really old and couldn't work anymore and had to stop working, that was it. They just didn't have any more money. There's no more money coming in. They were broke and poor. The United States, the New Deal program, I just erased everything. The New Deal program started this thing where when people retire, the government will still pay them a small amount of money every month, just enough, just enough to make sure they're okay until they die, because most people work until they're old. So the New Deal did a jobs program and Social Security and food stamps and did some other things too, but security, it was to help the nation recover from this depression they were in. And the conservatives, what do you think the conservatives liked about this? They hated it. They hated it. The conservatives thought, no way, we've never had this before. We don't need to help those people. They should be able to figure it out on their own. And it's not the government's job to help people. It's the government's job is to rule. The government's job is not to help private individuals. Well, then you had the other side, the more progressives, that were saying, nah, actually, it kind of is the government's job to help take care of its people. So there's still today, there's a big fight there. And that is the major difference between the Democrats. Actually, let me, the Democrats are blue. The Democrats and the Republicans in the US. The major difference between these two parties is the Democrats say, you know, it kind of is the government's responsibility to take care of people. And so these are your progressives. And the Republicans say, no way. It is not the government's responsibility to take care of private individuals. They need to take care of themselves. That's your major difference in these two parties. There are a bunch of other tiny little differences, but the real serious thing that divides Democrats and Republicans in the United States is the people that say government needs to stay out of private life no matter what. It is not the government's place. And the people that say, no, it kind of is the government's job. They really should help take care of people because there are leaders and leaders are supposed to take care of the people. And that's it. We're finished with Unit 4. And I will see you guys either tomorrow on Thursday or Friday. And then whether you have class next week on Monday or Tuesday, that is the day you will take this test during class time. If you have class on Monday, we'll take the test on Monday. If you have class on Tuesday, we take the test on Tuesday. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.